Hello, I'm Jonathan Mason,
And I am Sonia Madison.
and welcome to Law Unfiltered, where we discuss various legal topics and current events. And Sonia, sometimes it's perfectly clear what topic we should discuss because of what's in the news or big events that happen.
Right.
But sometimes we try to switch it up, find something that maybe is a little off the beaten path, or just casual topics or something like that. And so I was on a Today Show website recently, and something caught my attention, and it was a story about emotional support animals, and particularly with respect to the airlines and how people using these animals or bringing these animals onto airplanes is kind of causing some problems for other passengers and some concerns about safety and things like that. So I thought that'd be an interesting topic for us.
It sounds interesting because I can imagine if someone is just saying, "Oh, I'm depressed," or I have some kind of symptom that's mental, so that I should just bring my dog, cat, whatever on the plane. That sounds like it could be easily abused.
Right. I think there is a potential for there. And at the time I saw the story, I hadn't realized. I thought about it later, and I was on a flight once, and someone seated in my row actually had a service dog, and it had a vest on the dog. And as soon as we got seated, the dog kind of went under the seats in front of us, and it never made a sound. It never got up. It was you didn't even really know it was there. But then I was like, well, that's a service animal, and we're all kind of familiar with service animals, especially for like visually impaired people.
Seeing eye dogs and
right.
the like. Yeah.
So that was like emotional support service. Is there a difference? And come to find out, there is a difference. And you have a background with like employment and disabilities and things like that. So some of it falls under like the ADA, for example. So.
And they make sure to distinguish between a dog or an animal that is trained to not only respond but identify what the issue is and then be able to respond to the issue. But when you're talking about emotional support dogs, I mean, I know a lot of pet owners who will argue, this is like my child, this brings me happiness. I mean, those are forms of support. And so, but under the ADA, they're like, that's separate. If it's a service that's a trained, pet, yes, we will let you bring it to whatever accommodation or whatever public entity that you like. But also, like you said, heirs and housing, they have different rules.
Yeah, and you mentioned an important point is that service animals are trained to accomplish a specific task for a disabled person, or in some cases to recognize, like if someone has a history of seizures, they can train the dogs to be able to recognize when that's about to happen
and how to remind
people to, or sometimes people can't pick up objects, and so they have dogs that'll pick up objects for them and hand them to them. But you're right, emotional support animals, my view, and it may be an ignorant view or a layperson's view, someone's just not trained, is that, like you said, they just help people feel better, they help people cope. And so what caught my attention about the video that I watched is that how do you get the right to bring an emotional support animal onto an airplane specifically? And I think the point of this, it was almost like an investigative video, and I think the point of it was two of the reporters in the video went online to a website. They didn't see a physician, or they didn't see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, which is a physician. They just answered some questions online, paid a fee, and that generated a letter, and the letter was sent to them, and they were able to use that letter to get in the first case, a dog onto the airplane. So then they said, oh, wait a minute, let's up the ante here. So a different reporter went on the same website, completed the questionnaire, and got a letter. But her support animal was a pig, a pot-bellied pig. And so when these people take a support animal on the plane, part of the whole purpose of support animals is being with the owner. And so So they're able to hold that animal in their
Right.
arms during the flight. And so I think of myself, and this is a selfish view, I admit, but what if I'm sitting next to a pig?
Right.
Or in another video I think I watched, they had a tortoise, and in still shot they had a turkey. And I'm like, do I have any rights?
And especially if you're allergic or if that's
Right,
going to cause you anxiety on the flight.
I thought about that. Like, what about allergies? Or like you said, what if some people have fear of dogs? So what does that person have any rights versus the person who has a support animal? Or does the airline should the airline have an obligation? For example, you're going to be on a plane, and the person next to you one of them had a kangaroo. So if the person sitting next to you has a kangaroo and they're going to have that kangaroo in their arms during the flight, do you feel like you should be notified beforehand or have the right to move your seat?
Right,
or what?
I think the problem would be, because I'd imagine this letter has to have these certain qualifications for them to meet. So I'd imagine if the airline is able to ask for the letter and then someone else comes and says, well, I'm allergic. I mean, I hope the airline isn't going to be like, well, I need your letter too, that you seriously do have an allergic reaction. But that's, when you're talking about a lot of cases, particularly in the ADA, medical documentation is okay to ask for, depending on, of course, the circumstance. But then I'd be very surprised, particularly if you physically are having a reaction and the flight attendant doesn't move you. I mean, that definitely steps over the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I
so.
do think that they would then move you. But I'm still with you, to say that a kangaroo, first of all, how would you know a kangaroo is the appropriate emotional support animal that's going to get you through this flight?
Oh, but that raises a question of the airline employees are put in an awful position because there would be a fear of liability for inquiring about it. And I think the most they can probably do is ask for the letter. Now that letter has to contain certain information. It has to say that the person's been diagnosed with a disability or other disorder. That, of course, the letter has to come from a licensed professional. And it has to say that the animal is a reasonable accommodation for this person. But that's it.
How we define reasonable, right?
That's true. And also, I mean, in the example from the video, the doctor was halfway across the country. These reporters are in Chicago, and the letter came from a doctor who was in San Diego. Never saw the person, never talked to the person. And I think that's what the airlines, one of the things that the airlines are saying, well, a couple of things. One, it's kind of a safety issue because service animals are well trained. They're used to being in public places around a lot of people.
Or in the air, because imagine being in the air can cause animals to go crazy.
Right, as opposed to an emotional support animal may never have been in that environment, and so they freak out. They use the bathroom. They do all sorts. They do all sorts of things that can create safety. But I don't think that's really what the airline's concerned about. I think they're concerned about the fact that they could have made $500 or $600 if that person had to
check
the animal in and have a crate and have someone whatever. I've never flown with a pet, but I'm sure there are a lot of extra cautions that have to go into transporting an animal as opposed to transporting a suitcase.
Right.
So I think really,
I don't think it a mix because a kangaroo, that's a large animal that you're adding on a plane.
Don't get me started. I think a kangaroo, personally, and I don't want to offend anyone.
Big dogs. Big dogs, that's a sizable amount that you're adding onto a small space where even 2 or 3 people in those areas is enough or more, too much. And
don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing people who need these animals or even suggesting that
particularly if there's a legitimate need.
Right, exactly.
Need versus you're just trying to avoid a cost.
Right. So what really was disturbing to me was just the ability to go online, answer a couple of questions, and get this letter.
Which I'm hoping one of those questions because if you say the airline can ask two, one of them, and we know that people can lie, but one of them should be, is this truly a position that you are currently seeing? Are you actually currently under their care. And if they clearly say no, I think that's enough to say, well, you don't meet the guidelines. Now, of course, they can lie, but then that's why this is an issue, is people lying in general. But no, I agree with you. It's getting absurd if that's the case. And from my understanding, there's no limit. So you can have 3 or 5 pets that you need.
Right, right. Some people have flown with multiple pets. That's true. But you know what's going to happen now? Every time we fly, when we're in the airport and we see an animal, we're going to be like, does that person have a legitimate
particularly
letter?
if it's not a service? Yeah, we're going to.
I think the next time I see somebody, I'm going to ask them, is that a emotional support animal or a service animal? I'm not the government or the
right. Well, they can say pet, and then what are you going to say? Well,
I'm just curious. I'm just conducting a survey, and if they say it's just a pet, and well, it's like, did you pay? Are you going to pay? But I don't know. Like so, and I guess again, it's just unfamiliarity with the rules. But I've seen people on the plane with a carrier, the little bat, the little crate things with the netting where people have their dog in that, and they put it in the luggage as carry-on luggage. But I don't think that they're considering that emotional support. I guess it's just like
not
a regular.
If it's in a crate, I'd imagine.
I guess it's just like a regular check-on bag, as long as it fits under your seat or
above the head. Yeah.
Although I don't know if I've seen anyone actually put it up there overhead and close it in, but
yeah, and then it's their only carry-on, that I imagine their other one is stored away.
Yeah. Don't get me started on carry-on luggage. That's a whole different topic. No, but anyway, I thought that was an interesting issue.
You have to let us know if they change that, because I'd imagine not people in general, but I imagine maybe the airline industry is trying to get some of this changed so that they can make it either more strict or at least limit number of animals. So you have to keep us posted.
I will, and because there have been some hearings going on, and some the airlines have kind of joined together to try to get some clarity, because they're in an awkward position. Again, they don't want to get sued under the ADA, but at the same time,
the Air Carrier Access
or the Air Carrier the Air Carrier Access Act. But at the same time, they've got 1 passenger versus 300 other passengers, and the comfort of everyone. But again, we want to accommodate people who truly need accommodations, but that's sort of the issue. Let's make sure they need accommodations. Oh, wow, that was a fun episode.
Well, let us know what you guys think, and thanks for tuning in.
All right. See you next time.